Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala. So last time we stopped with Surah Taha, which is chapter number 20, verse number 56. Verse number 56 of Surah Taha, which is the 20th chapter. So we begin by recital, and then inshallah we reflect on what we recite, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولقد أريناه آياتنا كلها فكذب وأبى قال جئتنا لتخرجنا من أرضنا بسحرك يا موسى فلنأتينك بسحر مثله فاجعل بيننا وبينك موعدا لا نخلفه نحن ولا أنت مكانا سوى قال موعدكم يوم الزينة وأن يحشر الناس ضحى فتولى فرعون فجمع كيده ثم أتى قال لهم موسى ويلكم لا تفتروا على الله كذبا فيسحتكم بعذاب وقد خاب من افترى فتنازعوا أمرهم بينهم وأسروا النجوى قالوا إن هذان لساحران يريدان أن يخرجاكم من أرضكم بسحرهما ويذهبا بطريقتكم المثلى فأجمعوا كيدكم ثم أتوا صفا وقد أفلح اليوم من استعلى. So we showed Fir'aun all our signs, but he denied them all and refused. He said, have you come to drive us from our land with your sorcery, Musa? We will challenge you with sorcery to match you on. Make an appointment between us, which neither of us will fail to do, in a mutually agreeable place. He said, your meeting will be on the day of the feast, so let the people be assembled when the sun has risen high. Fir'aun withdrew and gathered his resources. Then he returned. Musa said to them, be careful, do not invent lies against God, otherwise he will destroy you with his punishment. Whoever invents lies will fail. They discussed the plan amongst themselves, talking secretly, saying, these two men are sorcerers. The purpose is to drive you out of your land with their sorcery and put an end to your time-honored way of life. So gather your resources and line up for the contest. Whoever wins the day is sure to prosper. We have 1 minute to reflect, and as normal, the question is pick one word or one verse or one sentence that really captures your attention or attracts your mind. As we always say, it doesn't have to be a sophisticated thing, just something that attracts your attention. A word, a phrase, a sentence, a verse. So, if we may begin, probably with Husam, give any word, phrase, or sentence, or verse that comes up your mind. Oh. No worries.
He's too late.
Okay. Was it too quick? Like you forgot. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if something captures your attention, it captures your attention. It doesn't take much time. You don't force your attention. Okay, let's probably start from the left side then. Might be some hope. Yeah? Did you hear what we're doing? Okay, Zayan? Yeah, let's start from the sister's side this time. You might have something.
Mine is not sophisticated at all.
I just said it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
Just anything.
It's just the area about they discuss their plans amongst themselves, talking secretly.
So it's the word secretly?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
Najwa or Sabr Najwa. That's a good starting point. Sasha, do you have any?
I think the one that stood out to me was 63, where it says, these two men are sorcerers. Their purpose is to drive you out of your land with their sorcery and put an end to your time-honored way of life. But when you look at the Arabic translation, I think it says with your way, the exemplary. So it's talking their way of life. That they
okay. طريقتكم المثلى.
Yeah.
That's okay. وَيَذْهَبَ بِطَرِيقَتِكُمُ الْمُثْلَى. Zainab, possibly you weren't here.
Huh?
You weren't here.
No, I just got asking.
No worries. Do you have any other sisters?
No.
No.
Okay. That comes out.
I mean, Ayah 63 as well. I think it's not specific, it's just the whole ayah, how he's kind of trying to betray maybe Musa and Harun that, they're coming here to deceive you.
So it's these.
Yeah.
Okay. The whole verse here. In هذان لساحران. Okay. Ahmad? Do feel free to repeat other people, it's absolutely fine. The whole point of this is not to feel pressured. So pick whatever you want to have. It doesn't have to be any, when I ask you, why did you pick this? Again, you just share whatever you want to have in mind. It doesn't have to be philosophical.
The beginning of 61.
What does it say?
Specifically, ويلكم.
Why not? Good. House.
قال أجئتنا لتخرجنا من أرضنا. I guess that verse.
Okay.
لتخرجنا. Something.
Good. أجئتنا.
For me, I think it's wrong. They can have a wrong understanding of this one. It's قال موعدكم يوم الزينة. I was just wondering if it could mean rather.
We'll come to that one. Just quick.
Okay,
quick
that
one.
and this.
Okay, this one. Islam.
Sort of the verse of فلنأتينك بسحر مثله فاجعل بيننا وبينك موعدا نخلفه نحن ولا أنت مكانا سوى.
Is that a specific word or the whole thing?
I think the part where it says which we will not fail to keep, like
لا نخلفه.
yeah.
Okay. Qasim? Nothing? This is your first time, I'm forgive you. أحمد.
فتولى فرعون فجمع كيده ثم أتى.
فتولى فرعون.
Probably the starting was وَلَقَدْ أَرَيْنَاهُ آيَاتِنَا كُلِّهَا فَكَذَّبَ وَأَبَى.
You didn't catch the passage? Okay, it's chapter 20, beginning from verse 56 to 60. 64. Yeah. Zainab, did you catch any words or something? Okay, no worries. For me, I share so many things with what you guys have shared. But definitely I know ayatina as well. As in Adam yeah, sure. We began with Ali, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why did you laugh when you said what's up in the middle?
Oh, this is
Surah.
I just thought it was like, you know, a secret whispering, just a visual in my head, and you know, this is how. Also, after that, he says this is their intention to drive you out of the land. Like that's not necessarily the true intention, but like the spreading of lies and like I don't know, secret. I don't know. I just drawn by the word secret.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. The Quran is often negative or in secret conversations, unless those secret conversations are for good intentions, to resolve a problem, to sort out an issue or something. Then private conversations, secret conversations are fine. Otherwise, they are often frowned upon Islamically. The Quran says, "La khayra fi kathirin min najwahum." You know, there is no good in much of the secret conversation, in much of our secret conversation. And the Quran says, "Illa man amara bi sadaqatin aw ma'rufin aw islahin bayna an-nas." Except for a person who is literally meaning good and doing good, trying to resolve a problem. You know, in that case, secret conversations, private conversations are fine. But on the whole, that's, you know, that concept, al-najwa, is not just about secret conversations, it's secret conversations intended for evil. That's what the word najwa means. So in general, yes, the Quran frowns upon those secret conversations, private conversations that are intended for evil. But the name for this is al-najwa. أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ نُهُوا عَنِ النَّجْوَى ثُمَّ يَعُودُونَ لِمَا نُهُوا عَنْهُ. The Quran says, have you not considered, have you not seen the people who have been asked to avoid secret conversations and yet they come back to it? And if you look at our practice of secret conversations, they are often, you know, either because it is something that we can't really speak about in public, we are ashamed of, or whatever. But the Quran says, لا خير في كثير من نجواهم إلا من أمر بصدقة. There is no goodness in much of the private conversations or secret conversations unless it is intended for well. Good? Thank you. Sasha, you said وَيَذْهَبَ بِطَرِيقَتِكُمُ الْمُثْلَى.
I think it was because it's like comes back to the way that people sort of assume their tradition and their old ways of life are sort of best, and I guess they sort of stick to that and don't want to change that. Whenever something opposes that or challenges that, so I think that's why I was sort of drawn to that.
So you understood it as if they are literally, oh, that's what the translation says anyway. وَيَذْهَبَ بِطَرِيقَتِكُمُ الْمُثْلَى. They are coming to literally disrupt the way of life that you really, back then the Egyptian civilization was, or the Pharaonic civilization was literally the most prosperous on earth. So they were so proud of it. One way of, misrepresenting Musa alayhi salam and Harun is to say that they are literally coming to undermine this. Another way to understand this is the people of the time, one of the key things about miracles in religion is that they are often, each prophet is often sent with something that challenges the people, challenges the thing that the people of the day master. So if the people of the day mastered magic, the prophet would come with something that challenges this. So وَيَتَهَبَّى بِطَرِيقَتِكُمُ الْمُثْلَى could also mean that Musa alayhi salam is coming to challenge you through your own best method. That is magic. That's why he thought what he's doing was magic. When it wasn't magic, this was literally a miracle. So that's another way. But what you look, what you identified is beautiful. As in, one of the ways in which you may misrepresent someone who's trying to do good is to view them as if they are coming to disrupt the time-honored tradition, especially if it's functioning, at least according to the customs. And this is so common in the Quran. And I'll say more about that when we come to the last one, but thank you so much for that. Who said in Hadan? Yeah.
I think you sort of answered why I kind of picked this one, where it was kind of setting the idea that Musa and Harun were coming to deceive you with what you already know, magic, and to take over your land, to set kind of the idea that these people are just coming here to maybe misguide you and take what's yours.
Absolutely. You see, this particular verse, I'm not surprised that most of you have picked this verse because it's so dense. Yeah. I think this verse literally had some of the most common ways of undermining a good cause or a good person. The first one is what we today identify as otherizing. You otherize someone. In هذان الأساحران. These people, they are not from us. That's the first thing you would do in order to really discredit someone. He is not one of us. In هذان الأساحران. Then the second point is literally a misrepresentation. يريدان أن يخرجاكم من أرضكم بسحرهما. They want to drive you out of your own land with their own magic. When did Moses say, I want to drive you out of your land? Did he ever say that? He never said that. He actually said, I want to, to take the people that you are punishing, to take them to another land. That's it. You will do your land. So misrepresenting someone's purpose, misrepresenting someone's message. That's one of the key strategies or tactics that people would use to undermine the mission or the vision of someone. Misrepresentation. But you also have, actually you could read it this way as well, what Sasha said. وَيَذْهَبَ بِطَرِيقَتِكُمُ الْمُثْلَى. That is what is known as the golden past. He's coming to disrupt, or the disruptor, you make as the disruptor. This man is disrupting a system that is functioning. It's absolutely fine. Right? Like maybe the Musa is giving us something better, but the past is always gold. So the verse is actually combining all those together. In هذان الأساحران, that's the otherization of a specific group or a specific person. He's not from us, they are not from us. Second is misrepresentation. يريدان أن يخرجاكم. The purpose is 1, 2, 3. Musa never said that, but I want to really to own the narrative. And this is so dangerous. Like, think of so many issues that we have today. You know, the media is so dangerous today because it owns narratives. It makes you think in a specific way, right? When Musa never said that. So what? And the same thing, by the way, Fir'aun did. Here, when he said to Musa, أجئتنا تخرجنا من أرضنا بسحر. Musa never said, Fir'aun is saying to Musa, did you come to drive us out of our land? The same. So his magicians repeat the same thing that Fir'aun said, and never Musa, he never said that. How did Fir'aun jump to this conclusion? Did you come to drive us out of our land? So again, misrepresenting the message, misrepresenting the view, owning the narrative. How does Musa respond? That's the question. And then you may look at it as the golden past, as in we already have something that is functioning, established, and it's safe, secure. And what you are bringing us is uncertainty, insecurity, we never know. So compare this to our past. But one should be open to really consider a better future, perhaps. And on the whole, you may look at it as the disruptor is disrupting a time-honored tradition. So the verse is so dense with this. And these are things that we, up to this very moment, are used, especially in public discourse on religion, on politics, and on so many levels, really. Did you say
what I meant here is as a context, and first Musa defending, like, he's there because Allah have sent him for a purpose, and they're just talking about him, like they're relating the message to him, but he's bringing it back to Allah and saying, like, be careful, don't, like, iftara ala Allah. This is not what I'm here for. This is not what I said. Defending first his message and Allah, because in the beginning he talks about, like, the signs of Allah to them. Then later on, I don't know, when I read the verses after, when it says فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ, like it's a bit after, we didn't come here, but then قُلْنَا لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّكَ الْأَعْلَى. I don't know, I link it all together as like Allah sent him for a purpose, and he's saying that these, like the things that you said, for example, they're telling him, you're coming to bring us out of the land. He didn't say that, and he's saying, like, La taftaru, this is not Allah's message, this is not why I came.
Wow.
And I don't know.
That's beautiful, Ahmad. So when Musa says, وَيْلَكُمْ, be careful. لَا تَفْتَرُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا, do not fabricate lies about Allah. فَيُسْحَتَكُمْ بِعَذَابٍ, otherwise he will destroy you. Ahmad says, I take this as a reference to what Fir'aun said, as in Fir'aun fabricated a lie about Musa's purpose. Musa never said that. The way he looked at it initially is he's talking about the future. He's warning them not to fabricate, he's actually asking to be straightforward, to be neutral. He's just reminding about the future event. But another way of looking at it is literally what Ahmad said. He's actually asking them to turn away from what Fir'aun is saying. Fir'aun wants to view Musa in a specific way. And Musa says, no, this is not the case, do not fabricate lies. I haven't said that. That's actually more contextually relevant.
Because I mean, what he is saying is what Allah is telling him to do. So
yeah, absolutely.
Makes
Beautiful. حافظ أجئتنا لتخرجنا من أرضنا.
I think similar to what you mentioned, to me, the whole interaction is very symbolic of, to me, more clearly of any political change that comes to be. And so in this moment, the ability for Fir'aun to come up with a narrative that is one, misrepresenting Musa, but also something that he can kind of bring the crowds around him for. As in, what he's telling people is not sophisticated theology. Musa's coming here to discuss theological matters, blah blah blah, because maybe the masses wouldn't care. But Fir'aun makes sure to pass a narrative that is of relevance to the people, to be able to lobby them against Musa. And he does that not by mentioning something far from them, but rather their specific purpose, which is, by the way, your lands are getting taken away. Yeah, the idea of misrepresenting and changing direction, but also what he changes to is something very dear to people, their lands.
Absolutely.
Not any ideas in the end.
Absolutely. So basically selling the idea to them. If he comes and says, you know, he's taken my kingdom, he's challenging authority, that way no one probably wouldn't have listened. But this is your cause, it's not mine. It's us. You know, think of Hada and these are, and us, we are these people. So yeah, literally maybe collectivization, you're trying to collectivize the cause. It's not just a personal thing, it's the entire civilization. Absolutely. Yes.
And the reason I said political is I can think of so many modern day applications of these. They just flash in front of my eyes. Yeah, I guess something like this could not be too political, but I remember when the Ukraine war started, there were BBC reporters in Ukraine saying those people are like us. They're not from Afghanistan or Syria. Those are blue-eyed, blonde people. Like they're ours. They're from us. As a way to link.
I do remember that.
The two narratives.
Absolutely. Thank you for that comment, Ahmed.
I think, probably mine is wrong, but I just thought that maybe another reading for Yom Zina could be Yom Qiyamah, as in Wa'adukum Yom Qiyamah. I don't know, probably wrong. I was just thinking.
If that's a good guess, Ahmed. Only if the next phrase was not saying وَأَنْ يُحْشَرَ النَّاسُ ضُحًى, you know, because we are talking about an actual appointment. So Fir'aun asked Musa for an appointment, and Musa says it is that day, in that specific place, and it's literally a feast. Some people actually would say it was around the Easter time. And Al-Duha is literally mid-morning somehow.
Can it not be like Yom Qiyamah is going to be, I don't know.
Wow.
Probably, I don't know, it's just so, maybe wrong, I don't know.
I think we have had the conversation before on what we've identified as a tafsir al-ishari. A tafsir al-ishari, what you can translate as the suggestive tafsir. You know, I have an established reading, right? But can I extend this to something else? That is what's called ishara, indication, the indicative tafsir, so to speak. Can this also indicate the day of judgment? I think so, it can. And it can. Yes, it is the day when they will be either rewarded or punished. And people will actually be gathered, and the Quran uses the word yuhshar as well, yawm al-hashr, definitely. But as long as this does not do away with the established reading, in the initial meaning, that is, we're talking about a specific place, a specific time. This is the established reading. The second reading, the indicative or the suggestive reading, the elusive reading, so to speak, one of the key conditions that scholars have identified is that it should not negate the established reading. In this case, it is not negating. It's not like an either or thing. You can read, both readings are possible, even though the context suggests more that it's to do with an actual meeting, an actual place. Well, thank you for that.
Sorry, I was just going to say, with then it makes sense that it call يوم الحج يوم الزينة, as in زينة زينتها, I guess, yeah. I'm going against myself here, but there's just something that popped in my head.
No, that's another good. I like that critical thinking. Absolutely. Can we call the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah as Yawm al-Zina? It could. You could possibly develop a reading in which you say, it's the day, the day of ornament for the people of goodness, right? Possibly, even though Yawm al-Zina is not one of the names of the Day of Judgment, you could still develop that as long as it does not really invalidate the initial reading. It remains, again, the thing about Tafsir al-Ishari is it is suggestive, indicative, elusive. It's not, as long as it does not disrupt the message of the Quran, it's beautiful. I mean, I find it insightful. It is the day in which everyone will be rewarded or punished. Could be Duha as well. The key condition, it should not negate the initial reading. That's number one. Number two, do not say that this is the only interpretation of this verse or something. Yeah, thank you for that. Islam. So you said.
Sheikh, when Allah says, Fir'aun said, is that sort of actually Fir'aun saying that? I just want to clarify that first. Is this what he would have sort of almost verbatim said? Or is it like
this verse?
Yeah, like فَلَنَأْتِيَنَّكَ بِسِحْرٍ.
Some scholars talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as somehow was doing an act of translation. Allah is translating what Fir'aun had said. And Allah is the best translator of all.
Okay. So
but Fir'aun never spoke Arabic.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So then, I thought this sort of entire verse was interesting because from what I can tell, Fir'aun is like speaking in quite a formal, like a very good Arabic, right? Right? Whereas like in Surah Yusuf, he says abati, which is like more like an informal. So I'm like, okay, wait. If Allah is choosing that Fir'aun speaks in a very eloquent way here, right? And then within that same verse, Fir'aun then says, you be here on this time, at this time, which is sort of what he values. As in, from the way he speaks, he's presenting authority, but then also what he's valuing is the time, is like this timely manner.
Sure.
Whereas I thought this itself was interesting, and it only sort of makes sense to me now when you presented the idea of misrepresentation. Because now Fir'aun, he's like, I'm very good. I'm a very noble person from the way he speaks, but to also what he values. But then obviously this isn't holistically correct, as then Musa would then say, do you want to add anything? I feel like I might be misspeaking.
No. I mean, you're raising a very important point, really.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack here, actually. The point about translation, what Allah is doing here, and what is translation to begin with? A very philosophical subject there. How do we translate? Do we translate, literally, or do we translate metaphorically? Do we take when you speak of translation, you have two things. You have the source language and you have the target language. The source language is the language from which you are translating. The target language is the language to which you are translating. When I come to translate, I have to observe the culture of the target language. If I express things in this way, how would the people of that place, of that language, would understand it? If I express this literally, okay. So in this case, I am changing maybe the letters or the literal meaning of the expression but it's mainly because I want to deliver the meaning that the initial or the source language intended. Did you get that? And in this case, of course, as I said, Allah knows best what He does, how He uses those expressions. But I like to think of it this way, as in Allah is translating something that had happened in the past with those people. So there is this aspect, but also the dimension of Fir'aun. Yes, you're absolutely right. Fir'aun comes across in this passage, in the previous passage. In the midst of the conversation, he comes up with good things, positive things. Those positive statements have literally confused Quran interpreters throughout history. We would like to view Fir'aun from a black and white perspective. He was an evil, bad person, that's it. And he was. But does this mean that he was completely and wholeheartedly evil? There is something that scholars have debated. Actually, there is a minority view that would say actually Fir'aun died as a believer. And they would often quote, there is a verse in, I think verse number probably 93 or 94 in Surah Yunus, the 11th chapter, the 10th chapter, sorry, where Fir'aun, when he was drowning, he said, قال آمنت أنه لا إله إلا الذي آمنت به بنو إسرائيل. Now I believe in the God of Banu Israel. وأنا من المسلمين. I am one of the believers. The vast majority of Muslim commentators would say this is not accepted because he repented on the verge of death, which is not really accepted. Ibn Arabi, one of the mystical interpreters of the tradition, says actually this is to be taken seriously. And Allah had accepted his tawbah. By way of leaving a sign for the people, لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً, so that you may become a sign for the people that you never know what the end of someone will be. This is someone who was at the peak of his arrogance, thinking that I am the Lord of this world, ending up becoming a believer. Of course, this is not the way the vast majority of commentators would read it. They would say, he's just been saved by his physical body, so that his body becomes a physical sign for the people who come after, so that they see this is how Allah destroyed them. But again, and then the Arabic would quote, stuff like these, like he was a sharp person. He actually is asking Musa for a debate, for Makan and Suwa. I want a place where we are both equal. He's put like a good setting for the conversations. This is but it could also be read as well. And you could say we have to read Fir'aun. And in this case, he's actually plotting against Musa. He is trying to come across as being objective and as being neutral, but in reality, he's setting a trap for Musa. Secretly, he's doing other things, maybe. But the text is so loaded.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I thought Fir'aun, at least with his time, I was like, wait, he's actually beating me at this. He's kind of beating me.
Yeah, I know. I'll have to disagree with Ahmed on this one. It's never that deep. I think it is this deep when it comes to this one. Thank you for the rest. I can talk for hours on the concept of translation, but I don't think this is the time.
So I think the key part for me was of that sentence, فَتَوَلَّ فِرْعَوْنُ فَجَمَعَ كَيْدَهُ ثُمَّ أَتَى. This جَمَعَ كَيْدَهُ, this idea of all this planning and gathering your resources and this secret dialogue, secret najwa, and all this that's happening between the sorcerers. And this all is against Musa, who has sort of no plan going in and has sort of no resources. Going back to what we said, I think a few weeks ago about this, he just has his stick and he's going against this massive army and all this, a massive ruler and all this. So yeah, it's just this idea of these people all gathering their resources and thinking what to do in the secret dialogue and something. And he's just going in without a plan, and then sort of, with all his dua and stuff like that he has, and Allah sort of helps him out in that way, giving him sort of the victory against the sorcerers and then Pharaoh.
So you asking why is it that Pharaoh took Musa that seriously when Musa had nothing yet?
Not really. It's just a comparison of what they both do. Like Pharaoh has got all this plan and dialogue and discussions and feasts and all this and all that, and getting the sorcerers and they have their secret dialogue and stuff. And Sayyidina Musa is just going in with nothing, sort of, other than just going in like that, talking about that, just has stoicistic and.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. You know, that's a very spiritual insight. You know, often evil is so resourceful, and often the people of faith are resourceless. It is not that we encourage the people of faith to become resourceless, but I mean, history tells us that this is often the case, and it should not make us give up. You know, Surah Al-Baqarah talks about Goliath and Talut. When Talut gets to face Goliath, who had only a couple of thousands, and Goliath he was a king, literally. And the Quran, you know, leaves us with this statement: "كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله." You know, how many generations, how many groups that were so weak, but we supported them because they were on the right track. But again, Musa alayhi salam was not resourceful in one sense, but he was so resourceful in other senses. He is resourceful in his faith. Allah had sent him with signs. Allah did not. Allah said, you know, he showed him resources here. The previous week, last week, we were talking about the preparation of Musa. How Musa was being prepared. The way in which Musa was being prepared, it was mainly to do with skills, and stuff to do with himself, internalities. Pharaoh's investment was in the externalities. So Musa was asking for Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri, and Allah said to me, okay, I've already prepared you for ages. I've already been preparing you for ages. I've given you that, preparing you for this moment. So Musa was not absolutely resourceless. Yes, actually was resourceful with the right stuff. Pharaoh comes across as being resourceful only from an external perspective. He has stuff in terms of resources, but he himself is not, internally fulfilled, so to speak. And this is what gets Musa to face this entire army, and that speaks to the power of self-transformation. When you are transformed from within, you can change the without, the outside, but it doesn't work the other way around. If the whole world changes, but your own self is not changed, it doesn't really matter. But because Pharaoh is changed from within, that's really what matters. And that speaks to us as well. At some point we were talking about reform, the idea of reform. Do we reform from the top or from the bottom? Do we start from when you come to reform a society or a government or whatever, where to start? The Quran has a very specific philosophy to that. Begin with the self. Begin with yourself. If you change yourself, there is every likelihood that the other will follow. The rest will follow. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah does not change the condition of people until and unless they change what is within themselves. That's the secret. Otherwise, the outside, that's the bottom approach, where you start from yourself. The top approach, even if it succeeds on a very temporal basis, because it's relevant only to the people that are in power. Perhaps the people that will come after them, they'll destroy things. But if you change the people, the society itself, starting from the self, from the self, no, you can't play with that. And it is the most difficult one. And this is the long-standing one. And that's literally when Allah summarizes the mission of prophets. and Prophet Muhammad more particularly, says they use a key to purify the selves or their own selves. So it's the mission of the prophets, the purification of the self. Otherwise, when you speak of, to be honest, when you speak of, those grand scheme things, like how do we fix the ummah, work on your own first. Otherwise, one can speak for ages about how to fix the ummah, how to fix the entire nation, or this or that. Just the simple one. We have no excuse. When you say I want to fix the Muslims, right? You will have millions of excuses, but I don't have the power, I don't have money, I don't have resources, but you have no excuse when it comes to yourself. Just begin with this, so you have no excuse. And this is the most basic and actually the most powerful one. Thank you for that. Yeah.
So that was success. ولقد أريناه آياتنا كلها فكذب. We showed Firaun science, he refused and denied. And like I interpret it as it won't just be like Firaun, it will be the people of Misr that time who will see that science. But like as Firaun, as their leader, he refused the science, and in order to keep the people on his side, he created this narrative that Musa alayhi salam was trying to throw people, drive them out of their land, like divert that public discourse. And like it's something that we see in the political sphere even in modern days, like to divert the people away from the actual the truth that's happening.
Absolutely. So are you saying that this is Fir'aun's capacity to literally shift the public discourse?
Yeah, like he had a position of authority compared to the other people, and like using that power, he creates a narrative which diverts the people away from what actually is the truth.
Absolutely. Misrepresentation again, surely. I mean, I personally picked that verse as well. وَلَقَدْ أَرَيْنَاهُ آيَاتِنَا كُلَّهَا فَكَذَّبَ. But we've showed him, all our signs. The Quran speaks of various signs of the self, how Allah created us. Just look into yourself. The signs in the universe. Look at the world, how it's been created. Look at history, what happened in the nations before us. And the Quran, when it talks about those dimensions, looking into yourself, looking into the universe, looking into history, the Quran uses the term al-nazar. انظروا. Pause and reflect. Pause and look into yourself, into the universe, into history, so that you may take heed. Fir'aun كذب وأبى. Allah said that we had showed him signs, all our signs. In this, the Quran said that he had been showed everything. In himself, in the universe, everything. But he denied. He was too arrogant to accept, or to see actually, just to see. فَكَذَّبَ وَأَبَى. And I really think us as people who live in the 21st century have something to pick from this verse. As in, we often see probably on a daily basis, we see signs, but we don't really, one of the key diseases that the Quran speaks of is the disease of al-ghafla. That is heedlessness. Heedlessness. You see something, but you don't really understand what it means. You just ignore. You don't take it seriously. And you don't even think about it. That's al-ghafla. Right? Al-ghafla is literally to do with, Allah gives you a sign, but you don't see it. That's ghafla. And this is something that really happens to us all the time. Sometimes we wake up, I would take this as a reminder. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. Allah had sent this as a reminder. I need to really, as a sign. If you start to see the signs that Allah sends us, you take this very, very seriously. And if Allah says, وَلَقَدْ أَرَيْنَاهُ آيَاتِنَا كُلَّهَا, it means He does this with everyone. I send you signs. You just need to be alert to those signs. One, I mean, wallahi, perhaps that's a good exercise that we could do actually. One can literally have some sort of a science journal. Just practice this for 1 week or something. At the end of the day, get this diary or journal and name 1, 2, 3 things that you considered as signs. Allah had showed me this. I thought about this today. I haven't thought about it before. I've seen this person in that particular place. Was it Allah telling me something? I was reflecting on this verse of the Quran. This thought came to my mind. I haven't thought about it before. What was the message? If you practice this on a daily basis, 2 primary things would develop. One is intellectual. You become a little more alert to the Quran. You become so intelligent. The second one is spiritual. You become so grateful for what you have, for what you own. Because it will teach you, naturally teach you the idea of عد وإن تعدوا نعمة الله لا تحصوها. The idea of counting. You know, when you pause, when you begin to count those signs, 1, 2, 3. Allah loves me actually. He sent me a sign. Next day I would read actually more signs. Third day I would read more and more. I end up, you know, Allah had showed me all this, but I haven't really realized it. This is what Allah had told Musa in the previous passage. When Musa asked those 8 requests, رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي يَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِنْ لِسَانِي. Allah said, your du'as, your prayers have been answered. But look, we have given you other things in the Quran. We don't know if did you consider them? Did you take those signs? We saved you from this, we saved you from that. We were there for you in Egypt, we were there for you in Madian, and Allah reminded them. Did you take signs of those? Right? So if you literally think of this, you end up with those primary values. One is intellectual, you become so alert and so intelligent. The second is you become grateful. So we just take things for granted. Consider this as a task for next week if you wish, a science journal. And this is, when we think of science, sometimes we exaggerate things. Like that has to be, an angel come from heaven or something. It doesn't have to be that way. And we do see simple stuff happening almost on a daily basis, only if we just pause and look. And that's why al-ghafla is a big thing. وَلَا تَكُنْ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. Just trace the word ghafla in the Quran. It happens so many times. وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً وَدُونَ الْجَهْرِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ وَلَا تَكُنْ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. Dhikr is one of the key concepts of the Quran, isn't it? Allah, the whole purpose of dhikr is for us not to become of the people of ghafla. That's how dangerous this is. So when you avoid this, you become aware of those signs. So get a science journal, and then we could ask next week. Nobody will turn up. But just at least think of it. I mean, if you do it, I'd be very grateful. I'd try and do it myself. It could be a game changer to your life as a whole. Just think of those intellectual virtues you may gain from it, the spiritual values you gain from it. Literally game changer. Yes?
Can I just ask a quick question
Sure.
in terms of the science journal? You know how you said some people think it should be like really big, but in terms of like how small can it be? Because is it ever too deep? Like when something small happens and you think it's a sign, or is it that like we should think that everything has like a reason behind it?
Okay, of course, it's not what we're obsessed with. It's we live at a time where everything is just fast-paced. We don't really pause to reflect, which means our day and age is much more dangerous than previous generations in terms of ghafla. In the midst of so many things, in one, just consider social media. Twitter, X today, think of Facebook. Although you can have hundreds of feelings within 1 hour. When you scroll through social media, what happens? You see a funny video, followed by a sad one, followed by a politically oriented one, then you have another religious one. How does your mind process all this? It's as if you are sitting in the midst of a wedding, as well as, a funeral, exactly. Wallahi. You are saying to someone, you're giving someone condolences, but at the very same time, congratulations. That's how it is. And just we become so accustomed to it, and we don't pause as well to just analyze ourselves. How do I process? What is my psychology? We end up becoming crazy. And prior to this, people would have time to process feelings, to process psychologies, their own perceptions of things. There is a really, really good book. I think it's called 100 Things That the Internet, either the Internet or social media, has taken from us. I think I'd be happy to share it probably today or something. The 100 things that, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the title, that social media or the Internet has taken from us. And it's mainly to do with our own perception of ourselves, how things go so quickly, us not pausing to reflect, right? And in the midst of all this, you are way more likely to lose track of those signs. Okay, how do I mean, it's about being alert. Being alert, in Arabic we have the word yaqid, or yaqban. Someone who's present in the moment, right? Yeah, I'd rather use the word present. I live my moment. Someone is saying something to me, and it is insightful, powerful. I would reflect on it naturally. You don't have to act that you are, I have to do, whether this is a sign or not. No, if you are present in your moment, you would know naturally how to assess what is insightful and what is not, what is just frivolous and it's not of relevance. This does happen naturally if you are living in the moment. With us, we are either in the future or in the past, as in worrying about the future, or grieving about the past. We end up not seeing the signs, maybe. So you may put it this way as well. You will only be able to see the sign if you are present in the moment. Alert to what's being said to you, what is happening in front of you. That would lead you to know what is really a sign and what is not. If that makes sense.
Yeah, something I just realized from the explanation that says that Firaun was shown all the signs. And you said in Surah Yunus it says, he became a sign. So Firaun went from being shown all the signs, he rejected all of them, and then he became a sign on himself. So I don't know how to put into words, but that sounds like a powerful reminder.
He rejected all the signs, he himself will become a sign for the people to come. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with Fir'aun, as I said, Islam's reflection. On the day of judgment, if I come across him and I found him one of the saved ones, I'll be more than happy. This is. Can we take this out of the? As in, he educated Musa alayhi salam somehow. He looked after him. I think he loved him. He loved Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. Allah gave us a sign as well. I made everyone who looks at you loves you. Right? And Fir'aun, we've explained this plenty of times in the past circles. How he would, talk to Musa in a specific way. He could have been dismissive. He could have imprisoned Musa in a blink of an eye. He gave him a platform. We'll discuss that with you in public, right? He never, in a blink of an eye, he could have just killed him. He never did that. He gave him a space, come and talk. He actually said, you choose the place, you choose the time. We are equal. Why would you do that? Well, and I could read it this way. When Allah said to Musa, لِنُرِيَكَ مِنْ آيَاتِنَا الْكُبْرَى, we will show you one of the greatest of our signs. To me, the sign could be that Fir'aun, this man who claimed to be a Lord, I will show you how he will be one of our worshippers. That is a great sign. Wallahi. I would not be surprised. I'm not saying this is, what I'm saying is to rephrase. I would not be surprised. And I think a Muslim should naturally be happy if Allah saves more people, isn't it? Exactly. Exactly. I was not defending Fir'aun. No. What I'm saying is Allah is telling Musa alayhi salam, I will show you one of the greatest, if not the greatest, of our signs. This man who's claiming to be Allah, I will show you in your life how he come to us. Fir'aun in the middle comes across someone who loves Musa. And Musa engages with him. He gives him a platform when he could have just dismissed him. He actually grows up in Fir'aun's palace. Of course, I know this is a remote interpretation. The vast majority of commentators would say it's actually the way around. On the day that we get to know. But for a Muslim should always wish good for people. Wallahi. Imam al-Ghazali would say, لو أنك لم تلعن إبليس في عمرك مرة واحدة ولعنت إنسانا بغير حق لسألك الله فيما لعنته ولم يسألك فيما لم تلعن إبليس. Allah says, if you have, Imam al-Ghazali says, in your entire life you haven't cursed Iblis even once, Allah won't ask you on the day of judgment, why did you not curse Iblis? But if you cursed someone wrongly, Allah will ask you, why did you curse this person? Right? So a Muslim should always wish good for people, the good and the bad. That's the psychology of a Muslim. I remember one day, I didn't do this because as we are doing this 1 hour. One day, as an undergrad at Al-Azhar, we were looking at Surah Al-An'am. We had a discussion that reached the verse that says, وَهُمْ يَنْهَوْنَ عَنْهُ وَيَنْأَوْنَ عَنْهُ وَإِنْ يُهْلِكُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And my teacher said, it's actually talking about the Prophet's uncle, Abu Talib. وَهُمْ يَنْهَوْنَ عَنْهُ وَيَنْأَوْنَ عَنْهُ. They are basically trying to protect the Prophet. He is trying to protect the Prophet against his enemies. But he himself is not benefiting from his message. So he remained. And there was a lady attending the class, and she cried. She cried for Abu Talib. And she asked, is there a way in the Islamic tradition through which we can view Abu Talib as someone who will be saved in the day of judgment? I just feel so sad that after he defended the Prophet, he supported him until the last moment in his life. Is there a space for him? He could be one of the saved ones. And we just remained silent for a bit because it was so it was so emotional. But this is literally the psychology of the believer. You don't wish evil. All you wish is just Allah to guide the person. That's it. But you know a person who wishes to destruction for people. And no, we all go back to one origin, Adam alayhi salam. And the Quran repeatedly emphasizes this, just to avoid this sort of otherizing, to become more inclusive. We all go back to one origin. We get afflicted with the same diseases. We get afflicted with the same spiritual diseases and physical diseases. We should seek excuses. We should always aim to help and aim to reform. At the very same time, just wish well. Wish well. Otherwise, it's that psychology of hate is is in Islam. Did you wanna? Yeah, sure.
It's definitely very interesting what you're saying, and like I definitely appreciate the end goal. As in, I see it, and I like. It's just to react to what you were just saying, because I wanted to say something about just the idea of the sign and link it to the modern way in which Muslims interact with the what they call waves of atheism, or the way that as a Muslim community we react to atheism. Something that I personally was thinking about, I wonder to what extent atheism is deeply, and most of the time, a spiritual problem, and a matter of not having an open heart to see the signs, rather than someone who still doesn't know, or has to be sat down and logically proven to that there is God and so on and so forth. So I think the way that that Muslims at least diagnose the problem and then go to solve it is almost like in this discussion between me and you, I will prove to you right now, and all that you're missing is just a switch to be flipped in your head, rather than a bit more of a longer journey in which you become open, like a heart is open to those signs that happen to every single person. It's just a matter of having
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm glad you haven't missed that one. Very, very important. You know, seeing the sign is not a guarantee that someone will be guided. You know, you yourself have to be prepared for that. So it's a two-way street. Was Fir'aun ready for that? That's a good question. He had been seeing signs, but he was not in the right mental. He had this ghafla. He was not processing what was happening to him. So definitely, it's not, especially with faith. And that's why in the culture of debate, what we see in speakers phone at Hyde Park, these are not, Muslim practices. These are Muslim practices. These are more of a ego-based discussions. That's Fir'aun is trying to make more of a contest, more of a debate. And Musa is saying it's not a debate. That's why he says, وَيْلَكُمْ لَا تَفْتَرُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا. Normally in debates, people would fabricate things. Ego is that. Musa is trying to remind him of the purpose. We're here not because I want to defeat you, you're going to defeat me. That's not the purpose. The purpose is that we have to clarify for the people what the truth is. لَا تَفْتَرُوا. He's reminding them of the purpose of this. It is not, to show off or to come across as the victorious one or something. That's the culture of debate. Is not an Islamic culture. This is not an Islamic culture. What we see from Muslim speakers who speak in Hyde Park is not a Muslim culture. It's this an ego-based culture, and the Quran is far from that. The Quran is far from that. The Quran, is a culture of dialogue, not debate. Debate is where the ego comes in. Is where lies come up. We are really so interested in defeating me at the expense of whatever, truth, whatever. You are just manipulating. We see Fir'aun is manipulating. Magicians are manipulating, exploiting every single thing they can do. When Moses' aim is just one thing, to show them what the truth is. That's it. For him, it's not a contest. And that's just, these are basics. These are basics. Imam Shafi'i used to say, "ما نظرت أحدا إلا وأحببت أن يظهر الحق على لساني." I've never had a debate. I've never had an argument with someone except I had wished that he becomes the truthful one. Allah makes the truth appear on his tongue rather than mine, so that I'd be more than happy to accept his position. And I literally end with this. One of the statements that are attributed to Shafi'i as well, he said, رأيي صواب يحتمل الخطأ. My opinion is, to me, it is right, but it could possibly be proven wrong. ورأي غيري خطأ يحتمل الصواب. And the opinion of my opponent is wrong to me, but it could possibly be proven right. He had that openness. He is not rigid. with his positions. And that's one of the key diseases of our age as well. Sticking to what you know. You're not open enough to see the science. And we've literally done this upside down. You know, to our mind today, what do we say? Like, رأيي صواب لا يحتمل الخطأ. ورأي غير خطأ لا يحتمل الصواب. You know, I think wallahi, we've literally done this. My opinion is right and no way it can be wrong. And my opponent's opinion is wrong and no way it can be wrong. That's literally, we've literally shifted and inverted this. And it's again the Quranic spirit of dialogue. May Allah enlighten our minds and our hearts. Inshallah, we end with this. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك. صلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد.